If I live right by a highway, I would want the highway to be gone too.
That's radio. That's talk radio superstar Jason DeRusha explaining how he would want I-94 gone too if he lived near it. I have another one. I don't know what this one says. Let's listen to this one.
The idea of filling in the highway and making it into a boulevard, which I find ridiculous.
That's the thing. None of the people who think this is a ridiculous idea would ever want to live next to it. And yet people have to live next to it. People with no choice but to live next to it, who didn't have a choice that it was built in the first place. Somebody's going to have to live next to this big polluting menace. And the idea that we're not even going to consider removal as one of the 5 options is kind of a scandal.
For sure. Especially when the project's called Rethinking I-94, especially when the boulevard option scored the highest in MnDOT's own public engagement survey. And what they're doing is the same justification that was used to build the highway in the first place, which is the neighbors that live close to the highway, they're in a sacrifice zone where the health of them and their families and the people who live, work, go to school near the highway are deemed as an acceptable trade-off for shaving 5 to 10 minutes off people's commute times. And that's really what it boils down to. And I think Jason summarizes that hypocrisy perfectly in his comments.
Did either of you read the Streets MN post? Did that appear today or recently? I just read it today, where Charlie Zelli, who was the former commissioner of MnDOT, said about I-94, we could never build that kind of atrocity today. Like, the planning consensus about urban interstates is that are awful. We should never have done it. We will never do it again. And yet it's seen as this like pie in the sky leftist radical dream to remove it and replace it with an actually appropriate surface street for a major U.S. city.
That's the point, right? There isn't anything super radical about wanting neighborhoods to be reconnected and to address the air and water quality that communities that are living along the highway get to experience, and asking for opportunities to address the disparities and the gap in opportunity to own and purchase homes and build generational wealth. I think there's just so much that the highway has taken away from tens of thousands of people that is very real. And so people are asking, community members and advocates and even elected officials who sit on the PAC are asking for MnDOT to challenge the status quo and to think of project options that are going to be addressing these concerns in a real tangible way, and not just provide lip service and say that you don't want to repeat the past mistakes, but then you go and do this, and you try to sneak in project options that are contradictory to what you say you stand for, and disregard the voices of communities that have been advocating for something that is going to address the disparities and reach some of these equitable goals that MnDOT and the state and cities and county are asking for. So there's just a few things that are contradictory and does not address the mistake that was caused and the harm that was caused by building I-94 through a predominantly Black and brown communities. And today, when we talk about who is bearing that burden, I mean, it is those communities that have been marginalized and have experiences of disproportionate impact from highway pollution. There's statistics of folks that are living in Elliott Park and East Rondo have life expectancies that are over a decade shorter than those that are living in the Twin Cities, outer cities and neighborhoods and communities. And so there's a lot of real concerns for the impact and what kind of message this is sending to community members who are living near the highway when we say that we are not interested in pursuing alternatives that are actually addressing some of these impacts. And is going to set in stone, for the next generation. Once this decision is made, the next generation is going to inherit this infrastructure, and it's going to be one that is going to be really harmful to them as well. So there is a lot of contradiction around what MnDOT is saying that they want to do, and the apologies that were made to the Black community in Rondo versus what is happening today.